What's good, y'all? Welcome back to the Bobcast. Today is just me, the Ba. DJ and Ant are doing their own thing today. So I've been assigned with a solo episode. So today I will be talking about what happened during the preseason week 1, as well as some new NFL news that just happened in the last couple days. Let's actually talk about that right now. Jamal Adams had a season-ending injury that was reported yesterday. I think he had that in the game that they played against I forget who they played. If I try to remember, it was the Giants. They played against the Giants. I think he injured himself in that game, or maybe during practice. I'm not too sure. But he's going to be out for the rest of the season. They just put him on IR, so he's going to be out for this whole season, and it's kind of sad. He was kind of bouncing around the league for a little bit. I know he was on the Jets to start out, and then uh, he was on a few other teams, but yeah, it's kind of unfortunate for a guy who's been looking for a solidified spot on a team, and I'm pretty sure he was going to get that with the Vikings, but injuries just come out of nowhere, and this is one of those instances. So, um, hope he comes out of it well. Hoping for a speedy recovery, and you know, just gonna have to keep working harder for a position next year. Some other news that was reported yesterday: Von Miller, former Pro Bowler and Super Bowl champion, signed with the Cowboys on a 1-year, $5.7 million deal. That goes up to like $7.5 million. So, that's an interesting signing for the Cowboys, which they are in kind of a need for edge, but it's an interesting signing for the Cowboys and Von Miller. He's been that vet on that team that just plays at a decent level. He's not at the same level he was when he was in Denver or even LA with the Rams, but he's still around. He's gonna be that vet guy that helps the younger guys, and we'll see how that goes for them. But for today's episode, I will be talking about the biggest winners and losers of the preseason week 1. So I'm gonna just start off with one of the team winners that I have in the Denver Broncos. They really had a really good game against the Atlanta Falcons. It was a blowout. I don't remember the score, but you know, having a game like that in the preseason always really good to have, especially for a young team like them. You know, sometimes you come out slow when you're a young team, but they just took control of that game, and they capitalized off the mistakes that Tua Tagovailoa was making during that whole game. I'll get to him a little bit later in this video, but it's good for them to get out the gates and have a win like that during the preseason. And the other team I have is the Buffalo Bills. I know they played against my Carolina Panthers. Well, DJ's too, but he's not here today, so let's keep that under wraps. But they had a really good win against the Carolina Panthers. They capitalized off the Panthers starting off slow, and Josh Allen was already playing like he was in midseason form. So that was a plus as well. I really did. I missed the first half of that game because I was sleeping still, but I was able to catch the second half of that game, and their young defensive players were doing well. I remember they mentioned Elam's Orr. I forget his first name, but that was the guy that me and DJ were talking about during the whole draft process. I heard Davison Ignosin as well. I heard his name out there. Um, Jalen Kilgore was also out there. There was a whole bunch of guys that we followed during the whole draft. I heard their names pop up, so it was good to see those guys out there. Just playing for a spot, playing for a 53-man spot. So I think they played well defensively, and obviously they capitalized off the Panthers' slow start. They were able to get drives going. They got an early touchdown, Josh Allen to Keon Coleman. We'll see what happens with that dynamic. I mean, Keon Coleman, I still think is a solid wide receiver, but he's kind of mid at times. But you can't discredit his talent. And then DJ Moore did a little taunt to Nick Scott, telling him to come hit him. That was a low key kind of made me a little pissed off, but it's whatever. It was funny. I wish he kind of fumbled though, but it's whatever. So I'm gonna get on to the team loser. There's only one team loser I have. It's the Bengals. I know they did win their game against the Lions, but I want to specifically talk about their offensive line. It still looks very, very shaky, especially since Joe Burrow's your quarterback, and as often as he gets hurt, like it's bad to have an offensive line that's already just fallen apart after one preseason game. That's something that needs to be improved on during the rest of the practices and the preseason. I just think uh, you need to shore up that offensive line for Joe Burrow to be at his healthiest and at his best. Because I feel like when Joe Burrow has a really good offensive line, and it showed when they went on that Super Bowl run that I mean, as long as he had a solid offensive line, he can make a deep playoff run. So I think for the offensive lineman in Cincinnati, you just need to be a little bit more polished and make sure you're protecting Joe Burrow at all costs and making sure he gets the right plays off, he can make the right throws. And, if he is getting pressured, then he has the wherewithal and the awareness to scramble out the pocket and, you know, use his legs to get some yardage. But yeah, it's just very suspect in Cincinnati for the offensive line. So I'll move on to a quarterback winner that really intrigued me was Jacoby Brissett. He took full advantage of um his playing time with the Cardinals. I know they won that game against the Raiders in Las Vegas, if I'm not mistaken, and he played a really solid game. He got a touchdown to Marvin Harrison Jr., which I feel like Marvin. I was just watching a video about Marvin Harrison Jr. too. I think that's something that will need to be looked forward to, as this is kind of like something that Marvin Harrison needs right now, especially coming off a season where he was very injured and he wasn't on the field as much. So that's something to look forward to. But just having Jacoby Brissett, I think that whole quarterback room with Carson Beck, Jacoby Brissett, and even Gardner Minshew, they all played really solid in the time they were on the field. There wasn't really anything that popped up that was bad in a sense, but you know, as a quarterback, there can be consistencies and inconsistencies all around. So it was good to see Jacoby Brissett actually have a solid game, and be comfortable out there and play like a starting caliber quarterback for a team that's looking to rebuild and restart. So yeah, that was a plus on the Cardinals and for Jacoby Brissett. Now I get on to the quarterback loser. I mentioned him earlier too, Tagovailoa. I was gonna put Anthony Richardson up there, but then after a little bit, I just looked like it wasn't that bad enough. Excuse me, it wasn't that bad enough to really pinpoint how bad he was. Like, he had a fumble, but he also did some good things in the passing game, and he used his legs to get a rushing touchdown as well. So I put Tua, like, it was just bad, bro. It was just bad. Even Michael Penix, I and I'm just gonna say, I don't think him pointing at Tua like this is who y'all want to start. Like, I don't think it's that, but the media is gonna make it out like that, and the memes are gonna be all over the internet. So uh, they're thinking Michael Penix is like saying, "Oh, you guys are starting two over me." Like, Penix also really didn't do much either. But uh, for Tua, I think, man, he's gonna have to do a lot if he wants to start for the Atlanta Falcons. But it's one preseason game, and you can't dictate that for the rest of the season. Yeah, it's a bit scary to see that he still is kind of playing the way he was in the tail end of his tenure with the Miami Dolphins. But you can't really dictate it off of one game with a new team, with a new coach, new coaching staff, n- rookies that are getting their first reps in real contact, full, like, not full speed, but you know, decent amount of like semi speed to the point where you could get some plays off, you know. But hopefully he can improve. I'm pretty sure he'll play a little bit more. They'll probably want to see a little bit more out of him, but if he's gonna start, they probably might not play him for the rest of the preseason. But I think it'd be something that he needs. He needs the reps to get used to, playing behind that offensive line and playing with the receivers he has. So we'll see what happens in Atlanta for both quarterbacks, because Even Michael Penix is not even out of this conversation either. There's a lot of inconsistencies. Inconsistencies. I can't say that word today. Man, I'm terrible, but there's a lot of negatives for both of them. But yeah, it's both of them just need to get get it right. I don't I don't know how to really say it correctly, but yeah. Uh, I'm gonna move on to the rookie winners. I have multiple winners for this section. I picked Ty Simpson. I watched his film. I watched a little bit of his highlights yesterday, and I texted DJ while I was watching these highlights. Like, I know him and Bryce Young went to the same college, but like he reminds me a lot of Bryce Young when it comes to being poised in the pocket, getting your throws to where they need to be when it comes to like check downs, or there was a lot of out routes that he had to throw, and he just did everything right as a young quarterback, and it was definitely a lot of scripted plays. I don't think he had a lot of freedom to throw where he wanted to. He just kind of had to throw it to the wide open person on a check down or an out route, or even like a dig or a drag. Um, but he got it there. I think there was a couple throws that he made that were like really good balls that he threw. The one touchdown, I'm trying to remember because I know he had a screen to one of the running backs. I forget his name. The running back that caught that ball were no gloves. He was like barehanded from what I saw. He took that all the way. But he really had a nice game. I think he played 3 quarters, if I'm not mistaken. So it really showed how well he could play. I know it's against second stringers, stringers, and like practice squad guys, but you still have to go out there and prove why you were selected that high, especially for a team that, you have a quarterback in Matthew Stafford that is coming off an MVP season, but it's not like he's getting any younger. And as the team overall is not getting any younger, you still got guys like Devonte Adams. I mean, Kobe. I forgot his name. How did I forget his name? But like even Miles Garrett's like in his early 30s. Aaron Donald's most likely rumored to be a Ram again, but we'll see what happens with that whole thing. But yeah, the Rams as a whole as a team is not getting any younger, so you kind of need that bridge gap between Matthew Stafford and Ty Simpson to, close in, and Ty Simpson to get that starting spot in the next year. I think if Matthew Stafford calls it quits after this year, that'll be Ty Simpson's spot for the taking. So I think he held himself well. He was very poised in the pocket. He made the right throws. And, I hope he could continue to perform at that same level, or, a little bit better, trying to get a little bit more deep balls in there, and, take a little bit of risk, because I feel like when it comes to rookies, you have a lot of room to make mistakes. And I feel like it doesn't matter at what spot you get, like, uh, you should be able to make those type of mistakes. And for Ty Simpson, I think he'll be perfectly fine, especially in a system where Sean McVay is a really good head coach. So, my next guy is Jeremiah Love. He also had a really solid game against the Raiders for the Cardinals. He had a really big run where he showed off a little bit of his elusiveness and his strength. I know he had a couple carries for 58 yards. I don't know how many carries he got, but yeah, he definitely showed why he was picked at where he was picked. I forget, was it 3? Because it was, how did I forget the first? It was Mendoza, then it was the Jets. Wasn't it the Jets? They picked David Bailey, and then it was Love. I forget. It's been a long summer, so um, I honestly forgot where those guys got selected. But for Jeremiah Love to show why he was the best running back coming out of this 2026 draft class, um, I think you expected nothing less out of him, and you got your sample size. He's not going to play the rest of the preseason, so you kind of see why they don't want to put him out there as much, because you don't want to risk injury with a guy like that, a top talent like that. So, just just play that one game, and then we'll see when the regular season comes. So, good for him and good for the Cardinals to win that game and get him some valuable playing time at that time. My next guy is Drew Aller. He had a really good game for the Pittsburgh Steelers as well. Very consistent with his throws and just overall played his game very well. Yeah, I wasn't really able to catch that game much, but you know, Drew Aller was definitely one of those guys that he wasn't going to be a top quarterback coming into this draft, but uh, you saw the potential and it showed. Um, I did see a little bit of him during that game for Pittsburgh, so hopefully he can continue his consistency as well. With the Steelers, so for my next category, I picked a rookie loser, and I really couldn't find one that stuck with me. And in all honesty, I don't even think this is like a big loser. In my opinion, it's just there was just like there was nobody else to really pick. So I picked Omar Cooper Jr. I did watch where he got the big catch. He got a really good like 26, 27 yard catch against the Buccaneers, and I was like, okay, maybe this could like start something for him. I don't think he saw the ball again after that. But yeah, no. This was kind of like a a nitpicky type of pick, but I really couldn't find nobody else really that was a rookie that didn't really show out. And if it was probably like one of the later round guys. So uh, yeah, Omar Cooper is probably like the only guy I saw that was one of the prominent rookie losers. If anybody would like to let me know who was a rookie loser, then comment down below and tell me about who disappointed in their debut during the preseason. But for a coach winner, I picked the Buffalo Bills head coach Joe Brady. I feel like he coached a very good game, just being a manager and letting his coordinators handle the job and things of that nature. You don't want to overstep during the preseason because you kind of want to see what your coordinators could do, what plays they could drop. I know everything's like vanilla and you don't want to show everything at once, but just to get your first like moral not a moral victory because they actually won the game, but get a little taste of like a head coaching type of win. That's always a plus. And you know he he was scapegoated in Carolina. I'm gonna go on a little rant. Like he he was a really good offensive coordinator for the Carolina Panthers, but we just had a terrible head coach that just I don't even want to talk about him. But yeah, Joe Brady is definitely one of those guys where I believe in his coaching and I believe in the system that he wants to run. So I wouldn't be surprised if he could be up there for coach of the year and probably lead the Buffalo Bills to finally get to a Super Bowl, or at least be very competitive in in the AFC. So yeah, for my coach loser, I have Todd Munkin. This was also like another thing where I was trying to look it up, but there was only like one coach that I really saw, and it was Todd Munkin. I guess like with the whole three quarterback situation, it wasn't as organized as it could be, and some of the play calling was a little bit suspect at times. But you know, it comes with the first time coaching, so excuse me. You know, you learn to adapt into that environment, and it's a tough situation, especially when you have three quarterbacks that are battling to be the starter, and that's just hard to deal with. I feel like for any head coach, like just you think you have a solidified starter, but in reality, like you have to play these other guys because you want to see what they could bring to the offense if they mesh well with the receivers and the running backs and the tight ends, and um, just have great communication. So this will be a test for Todd Munkin to get through, and we'll see what happens with him. As I'm gonna move on to my next topic, I'm just gonna talk about like things I'm gonna watch in the preseason for week 2. I think um I'm gonna start with my team, the Carolina Panthers. Like it's just like dang, we keep on getting off to this slow start every single year. It doesn't matter if it's a regular season or preseason, but like you think after that Hall of Fame game, we come out with a little bit of more urgency, a little bit more, a little bit more aggression. Not aggression, but play with some flow. It didn't seem like that. Like I said earlier, I did miss the first half, but I caught up, and it just didn't look like the offense could really get anything going. They didn't really even get a first down like that until like damn near the end of the second quarter. So it was definitely tough for the Panthers offense and Bryce Young to even get anything going. But the defense was fine. Like I'm not gonna trash the defense. Like Jalen Phillips got his first sack. That was nice to see. Princely Umon yelling, getting pressure was also really nice to see as well. So, but as a whole, I think it's always a yearly thing where the Panthers come out slow for any like start of the season type of thing. Either it's preseason or regular season. So we'll see about that. But rookies to watch, I think Casey Concepcion is a guy that played very well in that Bears game. Um, he had a rushing touchdown. He had some rushing attempts, and like he was definitely one of my favorite prospects coming into the draft. So I'm definitely excited to see him. I want to see Drew Aller play again for sure. I want to get a little bit more insight on him. Ty Simpson as well. I was really impressed with what he could do, but um, I want to see. You know who really caught my eye? Who really caught my eye? It was someone like I think that whole Buffalo like that rookie class is really good. Like the players that they were able to get at the spot they did were really good. Um, I heard Dazon's dribbling did very well as well. Um, even for the spot he was picked at, I think you know I'm gonna have a little bit of regret saying that it was a reach, but at the time it was a bit of a reach, but now he could back it up. But there's a lot of rookies out there that are trying to prove that they need a spot on the team. So there's going to be a lot in that. I think players that need to bounce back. Definitely, we need a Tua like good drive or two out of him. Uh, who else? Who else could I really think of? I really like didn't catch a lot of preseason like that, but I was checking in here and there. I was checking in here and there, but it wasn't like I could get a full entire thing of preseason film. But um, yeah, it's just gonna be a lot of a lot of narratives that are being written right now. So, well, we'll see what happens in week 2. There's gonna be players that are gonna bounce back. You know what? I want to see Darren Waller play. I need to see Darren Waller play, and I want to see if he can make a couple plays for us. Cause I hope we didn't sign him for no reason. So yeah, I'm excited to see what preseason week 2 could lead into. So let's get on to a panic meter section. Um, I basically did a 0 through 10 rank of the panic meter. 0 to 10, 0 out of 10 is like I don't really like. I don't. It's whatever. Like they're not panicking whatsoever. Five out of 10 is like okay, maybe we should like consider something, or like at least you know let's have a conversation on if they should be panicking or not. And then obviously a 10 out of 10, like, oh, we're going crazy. Panthers fans, this is the end. Like, oh my God, we're so screwed. It happens every year. But I'm going to start off with the Arizona Cardinals. I think at the time I did do a 5 out of 10. I think I'm going to lower it down to like a 3. They really did have a good game against the Raiders, but it's also the Raiders. So I'm going to do like a 3. But I think they played well against the Raiders. Like, there was nothing really to get panicked about really for them. So I'm gonna update it to a 3 out of 10. Uh, I did a 5. That's a mistake. But for the Falcons, yes, absolutely, we're panicking. Um, and I think Falcons fans would panic too, like a 6.5 out of 10, which is not like overly dramatic, but it's like we have some things to consider. We have some things that we need to pull back and reconsider and talk about. I think with the whole quarterback situations, like, do we really want Tua to start? But then we have Michael Penix start, and it doesn't feel like it's any better. But they're two left-handed quarterbacks, by the way. But it's just something to reconsider and just think about in the back of your head for the Falcons. I put a 6.5 out of 10. I don't know if Falcons fans aren't really panicking about this, but like I did say earlier, it's Tua's first game with a new, just everything, a new team, a new coaching staff. So you kind of have to give it the benefit of the doubt, but you had training camp to get all that situation. But I think he just needs to play at a decent level during the preseason to at least start. My next team is the Baltimore Ravens. I'm going in alphabetical order by the city names. So the Baltimore Ravens are next. I give them a 2 out of 10. I think they did perfectly fine in their game. I forget who they played, but there wasn't really anything that I could pinpoint about them. So I give them like a 2 out of 10. Uh, Ravens fans could tell me if there was any issues that they had with them, but I really couldn't find anything that was overly bad for them. So I give them a 2 out of 10. The next team is the Buffalo Bills. Obviously, they put a whooping on us, so I gave them a 0 out of 10. I think Josh Allen playing well kind of um, made that happen. But everybody on that team played well. Even the like second, third string running backs played well. The wide receivers did well. Like it was like everything was running on all cylinders. It was crazy, but yeah. I give the Buffalo Bills a 0 out of 10. The Chicago Bears, who are rumored to be the Indiana Bears. I hate that name, by the way. It's so bad. Like, why are we leaving the city where we started 100 years ago? Anyway, let's move past that. I give them a 1 out of 10. They start off very slow. I will say that. I did watch the highlights during that game for the Browns and the Bears. That game was very slow until the very end, where Chicago was like, "Oh yeah, we can score in a football game." So I gave them a 1 out of 10. Maybe that slow start is a bit concerning, but it happens in a football game. You're trying to get used to the game speed. So I give them 1 out of 10, and it's the Browns, which let's be serious here. It's not the most threatening team. I will say that. Their defense is great though. I will say that. The next team is the Cincinnati Bengals. I give them 5.5. I think this is mostly stemming from the offensive lineman situations. Just that, and the defense looked fine. I think I'm trying to remember because I did watch that game for a little bit, and then I went to watch the Steelers Packers game. But yeah, I think that's really stemming from the offensive lineman issues, and Joe was able. He got sacked. He did get sacked, literally like the first possession of their drive or whatever. He got sacked, so that was bad, but it's just the offensive line. Now they need an offensive line. First it was the defense, now it's the offensive line. So yeah, for the Cleveland Browns, sheesh, brother. I would give them a 10 out of 10, but I gave them a 7 out of 10. I think it's that whole quarterback situation. Like you really need to find a quarterback that is solidified in that position. I think like Shador is just too inconsistent. Dylan Gabriel's like meh. And then Deshaun Watson's meh too. Like even for how long Deshaun Watson's been in the league, like you still can't rely on him as much as you should. And I don't know, like we were talking about in the last episode with like Dylan Gabriel might get traded if he doesn't play as well as he should during the preseason. But it's also for Shador as well. Like he could get traded too. Any of these guys could get traded or get cut. I don't think they want to cut Deshaun Watson though, because that's a big contract that you don't want to pay while the guy's not on the team. So, uh, but nobody's going to be willing to trade for that contract either. So, you kind of have to keep him there. And with Shador, like, yeah, he has all the potential. He did get a lot of playing time at the tail end of last season, but at the same time, like, you'd think he'd play a little bit to that level, and it just didn't really look like that. I knew he threw an interception in that game as well, which there was one guy that had two interceptions in that game for the Cleveland Browns, which is no, two guys for the Chicago Bears. It was one guy that had two interceptions. I forget his name. Ooh, what was his name? It was something Beanie Bishop. Was it Beanie Bishop? No, Beanie Bishop's on the Steelers. I don't remember, but one guy got two interceptions on the Bears. But yeah, for the Browns, it's like a 7 out of 10, and I think it's just you're worried about the quarterback situation, and like Dylan Sampson played well, Casey Concepcion played well. I didn't hear anything about like Denzel Boston or nothing, or Isaiah Bond. So like that was I didn't hear much about those guys in the wide receiver group. But yeah, I think this is just stemming from the quarterbacks, and we'll see what happens during week 2 and the rest of the preseason and going into the regular season. For the next team, I have the Dallas Cowboys. I give them a 3 out of 10. They actually had a really good game against the Seahawks. Joe Milton and Sam Howell really had a good game. So if anything, I'll probably dim this down to like a 1 maybe a 2. But I think 3 is fine. It's like that middle ground between like, oh, they're good to like there's some things to talk about. But yeah, I think with the signing of not Miles Garrett. Yo, yo. My mind is all over the place with Von Miller. I think that'll add a plus to that defense. Because no, he was a former Cowboy, DeMarcus Lawrence. I was thinking of DeMarcus Lawrence, but that'll add a plus to the defense. So I gave the Cowboys a 3 out of 10. Sam Howell and Joe Milton played their game. They showed out and did their thing. So there's nothing really much to talk about with the Cowboys. Next, I have the Denver Broncos. They handle business. Nothing much to say here. I gave them a 0 out of 10 going into the preseason week 2, but you know, there's some underlying things that might need to be discussed that I couldn't catch, but you know, it is what it is. I give them a 0 out of 10. For the Detroit Lions, I give them a 5 out of 10. Um, shoot, I think this has to do with like the secondary. I think no, it's like there's definitely things that need to be discussed for that whole Lions team. I know they didn't play much of their starters, but you know, you still have to execute as a team. But well, let's just keep them at a 5. I think a 5 is appropriate. For the next team, I have the Green Bay Packers. They did fine against the Steelers. I don't think there was nothing that was super alarming. So I give them a 3 out of 10. And yeah, let's just move on to the Houston Texans. I give them a 2.5, just a little bit under the Green Bay Packers. It was kind of like the same thing as well. Like, I don't think there was anything alarming. Like, and then, like I said, I wasn't really able to watch all the teams as much as I could have and should have, but you know, it's definitely something that I might have to look into. Now, for the Colts, I did catch a little bit of that game. And like I said earlier about Anthony Richardson, like he's just very inconsistent when it comes to like being a quarterback. But I think Riley Leonard didn't have a better performance either. So um I think that's something that the Colts need to get situated before it gets worse. Like you need to have a solidified QB2 if Daniel Jones is going to be your starting quarterback. So um yeah, that's just you need to find your quarterback too. And if you can't find any in those two, then you might have to go look at the open market and find someone else or like trade for someone or pick someone up off a practice squad. Don't pick up Haynes King though. He's gonna be on the 53-man roster anyway, so it doesn't even matter. Anyways, next I have the Jacksonville Jaguars. I gave them a 3 out of 10. They won their game against the New Orleans Saints. It was a really good play at the very end that I don't know the corner's name, but he had a really good defensive play there at the end of the game. I think for them it's like they they did their thing as well. They finished finished strong, and they came out with the win. There's not much to say here for the Jacksonville Jaguars, so I give them a 3 out of 10. Next, I have the Kansas City Chiefs. I also gave like you're about to see a trend. I gave like 3 teams 3 out of 10s in a row. For the Chiefs, like this is a situation where you got everything you could out of your players that you played during the time, but at the same time you kind of got fried by Ty Simpson. But you know, Mahomes didn't play that game. It's not like he played that game. Not that I remember. Did he play that game? No, I gotta look that up. I don't even want to go look that up right now. But you know, for the Chiefs, I think you're not really panicking as much, because like you're just kind of waiting on for Patrick Mahomes to play, and you get on your young guys out there. I don't know if Mansour Delane played. Um, their top pick. I think they had another pick too, if I'm not mistaken. But I did hear TJ Park. No, TJ Parker's on. No, it was the other Clemson dude. I forget his name. I forget his name. But it was another Clemson dude, if I'm not mistaken, defensive tackle. I think I heard his name once or twice in that game, but yeah, I don't think you're just kind of waiting on Patrick Mahomes to come back and see if he could get to a level where he was playing at before, MVP, Super Bowl champion type of level. And I don't even think you panic if he like regresses a little bit because he is coming off a very significant injury. So I gave him a 3 out of 10. For the Las Vegas Raiders, I also gave him a 3 out of 10. Like this is the most obvious rebuilding season that you're just developing Fernando Mendoza. Like he's gonna be behind Kirk Cousins most of the start of the season, I think, unless like Kirk Cousins absolutely has terrible performances as the starting quarterback and Fernando Mendoza has to start and has to play because you picked him at one for a reason. But I gave him a 3 out of 10. Like there's nothing to panic about here. Like you're obviously in a situation where you're rebuilding, you're retooling, you don't have the weapons to really give Fernando Mendoza. He could probably like makeshift it and make the best of it. But it this whole season is like we are not worried because we're gonna get a top pick. Um, but if they come out the gates and just start winning games, that might be surprising as well. I have the Los Angeles Chargers next. I gave them a 2 out of 10. They did well against the Texans. Oh wait, yeah, they beat up the Texans. Now that I think about it, yuck. Yeah, because it was 27-7, if I'm not mistaken. Um, yeah, there's not much to say here about the Chargers. Really, like they just handled their business um against the Texans. Trey Lance did have an interception against Kamara Ramsey, though. I do remember seeing that, which is whatever. I guess it happens. It happens to the best of us. DJ Uwanga played. He was 6 for 9 for 120 yards and a touchdown. Um, I I put a bet for what's his name? Trey Harris. He did not play that game. I was like, wow, they didn't even play him. They didn't even put him in there. Rondé Gatson played. That's nice. He had 2 catches for 21 yards. Um, but yeah, there's nothing much to say here. I think from what I understood from the Chargers fan that I mentioned in the last episode that I was talking to, it showed that they have some decent depth at wide receiver, and you know they need a quarterback too that's going to be able to handle business if Herbert ever gets hurt or whatever. So I think the Chargers will be fine, and same thing with the Rams, the next team. I think Ty Simpson played wonderfully. Like he did everything he was supposed to, and even the defense played well. So I wish Ant was here to give me more in-depth information about the Rams, but this was the Ty Simpson show, and he showed out. So There's nothing much to say about the two LA teams. As I'm moving on to Miami, I think they had an okay game. I think they lost though. Um, did Malik Willis play? I know they lost to the Commanders. He did play, and he was 4 for 5 for 43 yards. Golly, he didn't do much. He did not do much. None of the quarterbacks did anything. Quentin Ewers 1 for 8. That's not good at all. He had an interception too. That's not good at all. But they really just couldn't get anything going. Really, like they had a touchdown score. I think, yeah, by Devon Achan. But like it's I gave him 5.5. That's definitely a concern. Like this is also another team that's most likely going to go into a rebuilding situation where I mean you sign Malik Willis to be your quarterback one. I don't think that's the best situation, but you know it's a quarterback that you are gonna have until you get to like a Manning or someone else. So yeah, this is definitely a rebuilding situation, and I mean you shouldn't panic as much. I know I gave him 5.5, but at the same time you kind of look in the mirror and think like, oh, if we do bad, we're gonna get a top quarterback in the next few drafts. So uh, I'm gonna move on to the Minnesota Vikings. I give a 2 out of 10 for them. They did fine. They did well. I think they won their game as well, if I'm not mistaken. Um, yeah, they won 13-10 against the Giants. Miles Price was definitely a key part of that game against the Giants. He had a touchdown, and I think he had 4 receptions, 51 yards, and a touchdown. He's definitely going to be a depth piece and someone to look forward to during the rest of preseason and even the regular season. Because I think I remember he did fairly well in last season. I think he caught a couple touchdowns, and he's a bit of a speedy guy as well. He's a smaller guy, so that's definitely something to look forward to. After you just lost, um, make plays out there. So I gave him a 2 out of 10. The next team I have is the New England Patriots as well. They tied with the Colts, 13-13, but 2 out of 10 isn't bad for them. They're coming off a Super Bowl appearance, and preseason doesn't dictate that, but I don't think you should panic as much. Play as much. I don't think they played, but yeah, it's just something that you don't really panic about. Yeah, Tommy DeVito had 13 for 22. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Tommy DeVito had 138 passing yards and a touchdown. So uh, it was a defensive game, it seems like, or maybe the offenses just couldn't get anything going. But yeah, for the Patriots, it's not much to say here either. Kobe Prentice had a solid game. Um, yeah, that was really it. It was mostly a defensive game. So yeah, the Patriots get a 2 out of 10, and the Saints as well. For being a young team and having injuries early into training camp, I think you're fine with the result you had in the first preseason game, 24-20. Just being scrappy out there. You kind of just have to compete and hope for the best. So I gave the Saints a 2 out of 10. Although I think the rest of these are kind of going to be low because they're kind of like teams that um, are most likely going to have top picks. This next team, the Giants, I could see them having a top pick, but I could also see them being very competitive. Especially with getting Malik Neighbors back, I think. And with the defense they have, I don't think they should fail. So I give them a 3 out of 10. Um, you had a close game against the Vikings, and I don't think that's something you should be really panicking about. Like Jameis Winston, 8 for 9, 89 yards. Now Brandon Allen was just terrible. He had 2 interceptions. Jackson Dart, 3 for 4, 26 passing yards and a tutty. Why did Devin Singletary have 40 yards? I know it was 1 reception, but he had 40 yards. Malachi Fields was a guy that I was intrigued with due to his size at 6'4". He's a bigger wide receiver, so I was definitely like intrigued in him as well coming out of the draft. He got a couple receptions in that game, so yeah, it's nothing really much to panic about. Now with this next team, they're literal roommates, the Jets. I think you kind of do panic a little bit. I give him a 4. I have to raise that to like a 6. But for the Jets, it's all about the quarterback situation. I feel like, oh my God, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Brady Cook had a good game. Bailey Zappi was terrible though, and Cade Klubnik did fine for his first appearance. But yeah, the backup quarterback situation, because it seems like Geno Smith is going to be the starting quarterback for the regular season, but you still have to have a solidified backup too. So maybe Cade Klubnik shoots up the depth chart and becomes QB2. That'd be nice. That'd be a nice little thing to see a Clemson guy jump up like that. But yeah, there was nothing really much to write home about. Like Garrett Wilson had 2 receptions, 32 yards. Omar Cooper had 2 receptions for 31 yards, 26 was his longest catch. Yeah, there was just nothing really to write home about. But the defense still didn't get an interception. They didn't even get a turnover. They didn't even get a fumble. So still an issue. Sounds like it. But yeah, for the Jets, I might have to raise it to a 6, honestly. Now that I'm thinking about it. We'll go 5. We'll go 5. There's things to talk about. But yeah. For the Philadelphia Eagles, I give them a 3 out of 10. I'm saying same thing with like the other teams, like the Giants and the Saints and like the Rams. Like you're a competitive team and you didn't really play your starters like that. I did hear Andy Dalton was playing like Dookie though. I did hear about that, which is so funny to hear because there was a point in time where Andy Dalton was being praised for being a great quarterback and being better than Bryce Young, and look where he's at now. So, um, for the Eagles, I think he did fine, or they did fine. Like they did lose 7-24, but you didn't play your starters. You played Tanner McKee, Cole Payton. Never heard of him, but yeah, I think they were all right. You didn't play your starters, so there's nothing really to panic about there. For the Steelers, same thing. Like you did play your rookie quarterback that you just got. Is Drew Aller a rookie quarterback? I swear to God he is. Um, but yeah, like you don't really have to panic about that. And he could be the bridge gap between him and Aaron Rodgers. Like he could be the bridge quarterback for the future, or he could be the face of the future and the face of the franchise for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Like that'll be their guy. He did play for Penn State, did he? Yeah, he's a Penn State guy. So uh, he played in the state. So we'll see what happens there for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I give him 1 out of 10. They did their thing. Um, the 49ers, I gave a 3 as well. DeZon Stribling was like the focal point of that game that they had. I forget who they played, but that was their top pick in the second round. And at the time, everybody was like, "Oh, this is a reach. This is a reach." I was definitely one of those people, but he showed out in his first preseason game, and hopefully he could show out more in week 2. So, yeah, definitely excited what he could show all of us. Even though like that was their top guy they were looking at too in the first round, I think, but they ended up snagging him in the second. So nothing to really panic about there. Same thing with the Seahawks, a 3 out of 10. I think you just like there's nothing really right to write home about. Nothing really nervous about. 3 out of 10 for the Bucks. 2 out of 10. They did their thing against the Jets. I think Jalen Daniels had a really solid game for them. Um, hopefully he doesn't wear 5 because Jalen Daniels and Jaden Daniels. And I don't think Ant would laugh at that. But, you know, he had a really solid game, 10 for 15, 111 yards. No touchdown, but, you know, He did have a touchdown, a rushing touchdown. He had a rushing touchdown. So he had a solid game there. I did want to see what Ted Hurst did, but he only had 2 receptions for 19 yards. So maybe they could get a little bit out of him in the next few preseason games. For the Tennessee Titans, a 4 out of 10. I did hear Cam Ward wasn't the best in their game. They still ended up winning. They played against the 49ers, now that I remember. They still ended up winning, which is definitely a plus. I'll probably equate that to the defense because they have Robert Saleh as their head coach. So, and that was his former team, the 49ers, before he became the head coach of the Tennessee Titans. I did hear Cam Ward wasn't the best in his game, but it is what it is. A lot of these quarterbacks, some of these quarterbacks come out very slow, very slow. And you think like a quarterback like Cam Ward, he'd take advantage of a matchup like this. He was 5 for 12 for 57 yards. Like that was bad. Will Levis was even worse, and he got sacked 3 times. He needs to get cut. He's so bad. But yeah, like a Tony Pollard touchdown, no receiving touchdowns. Like it was a field goal fest. Now that I think about it, I did see a TikTok about Joey Sly or something. I wish I could put it up, but yeah, that was a solid game. 4 out of 10. I think the only concerning thing is Cam Ward's performance and Will Levis being trash. Yeah, nah, he needs to be cut. For the Washington Commanders, luckily I was 2 points short of a 5 out of the respect of Jaden Daniels. I gave him a 3 out of 10. They did their thing against Miami as well. Nothing really like I said, the 3 out of 10 is like a middle ground between like they're good to like, all right, let's talk about something. It's like meh. There was definitely probably some things that need to be addressed, like Jaden Daniels, but that's more of a meme than anything. Um, but yeah, 3 out of 10. They're cool. They're chilling. I think there's definitely some things that need to be addressed, like every other team. But you know, I think that's a fair assessment for the Washington Commanders. Now, there's one team I left off, and I wanted to get to them last. I left the Panthers last, as me and DJ usually do. Um, I gave them a 4.5. Now, the offense starting off slow, definitely a concern. The defense was fine. The starting defense was fine. They did let up a touchdown. I understand that. The defensive line was fine. I think the corners were a little bit suspect. And it was just the offensive line, honestly. Like, you didn't have your 2 starting guards. You didn't have Robert Hunt or Damian Lewis. So that's kind of already a negative in any game that you're playing. If you don't have one of those 2 guys in a game, let alone both of them are out, it's gonna be some bad business. So it was already bad from the beginning once those 2 were reported out. And then Derek Brown didn't even play. So that was already like, damn, they're gonna run through the whole defensive line if Derek Brown's not in there. And then Bryce starting off like he couldn't get a throw off because the offensive line was just letting TJ Parker get through them like it was nothing. And it was like, I think it was Deion Walker too, if I'm not mistaken. Like he was looking to lead out there too, but like the offense couldn't get nothing until like the third quarter, where Kenny Pickett was just throwing dump off passes. And we were on a like a because how many they play 15 minutes in preseason? Yeah, they do. It's stupid. But yeah, we had a long drive in the third quarter, and then it equated to nothing. We were like all the way down the field, like short 2. I think we're at like the 20 or 25, maybe the 30. And we go on this long drive in the third quarter where we're close to being 4th and out, and then we get a pass interference. We get the pass interference. We accept the pass interference, of course. And we're back to like almost a 4th down. We go for it. We get it. We get another 4th down. I think we get that one too. And then we're all the way almost to the end zone. Nothing. Kenny Pickett, I think he gets pressured and I think he got sacked, if I'm not mistaken, or he threw it away. It was just not a great game for the Panthers. And other Panthers fans, they panic immediately. I never understand why you panic so much. And I'm the culprit, I guess. I guess I panic too much about my team, but I understand that there's things that just need to be addressed. And one of those things that is apparent every single year is that we start off slow. It doesn't matter if it's the regular season or the preseason. Like it always starts that way. And it's gonna get to a point where if we keep starting slow, we're gonna put ourselves in a situation where we're gonna be 1-4 in the regular season. Now we have to scratch and claw to try and win the division, and we'll finish like 8-9. We'll keep losing and winning, losing and winning. That's what was happening last season. Like we went down 0-2, beat up on the Falcons, and then we lost to the Patriots. And then it just kept going, like win, lose, win, lose, win, lose. Like it was making me sick to my stomach. So I don't want to see that again. I don't want to keep this roller coaster going. I need to see some more consistency when it comes to the offense and the defense. And you need to see your guys mesh. I think it just needs to be a lot more consistency, a lot more urgency, and this is the first time that Brad Exit is being the play caller, and you want to keep everything limited when it comes to the preseason, but at the same time you kind of have to show one card maybe, like, yeah, I'm gonna, like, this is what my quarterback could do, or this is what my receiver could do, my receivers can do, because we have a numerous amount of receivers that could do a whole bunch of different things. And maybe show one card, maybe peek it, like put it out there, like threaten it, but you don't want to show too much during the preseason. That's mostly for the regular season. So yeah, those are my rankings for the panic meter for all 32 teams. And that is going to wrap up this episode of the Bobcast. The guys will be back again, and they'll be doing their own solo episodes as well. So look out for that. The next episode we're going to do is a Marvel episode where we talk about Spider-Man Brand New Day, the new X-Men casting, and then some of the new movies and possibly and shows that are going to be coming out, as well as Doomsday. So be on the lookout for that. And I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace out.